Hey, what's up? Chad Hermansen here with Mental Edge Training Coach. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with Reed Secrist. Reed is a former minor league player. We were teammates together in AAA in Nashville for years. Great teammates, great friends. We've held tight bond together for years. Reed is now the head coach of Snow Canyon Baseball in St. George, Utah, actually in Santa Clara, Utah. So we're going to talk about his life, his career, what he's doing now as a head coach at Snow Canyon, what it's like to be a head baseball coach these days, and we're going to have an awesome time today. So enjoy this conversation with Reed Secrist. What's up, Reed? How's it going, man?
What's going on, Chad?
Awesome.
It's good
I'm doing
to be
good,
here.
man. We're in the middle of July of this recording. It looks like you are in your clubhouse at Snow Canyon High School, right?
I am. I'm in my office.
That's it. You got a lot of pictures back there. Now, how long have you been coaching high school baseball?
This was supposed to be my 17th season, so that got cut a little short. But,
a little bit. Yeah, we're all kind of still trying to figure stuff out during the summer. So we're going to talk about, I wanted to bring you on today because number one, you're a dear friend of mine and we've been close for so long. We met in the minor leagues. I was roughly around in A-ball, I believe. You were in the Pirates system already, like an established veteran, if you will. And we started to meet each other. We shared the same faith, became close friends, pretty immediate, along with some other friends as well. So I would like to hear your story about how you were drafted. You know, what was your route? How did you get to the Pirates?
well, it was a long route, there's no doubt, and drafted never happened. So I ended up signing as a free agent, but went to junior college, Dixie Junior College here in southern Utah, and then after that went to the University of Texas and played there for 1 year for Coach Gustafson, and wasn't playing very much and thought, if this is my last year, I want to play. And there was a small school in Iowa, went out there and had a good season and had a Pirates scout that loved me. And he had only signed one other kid before me. So, he was down on the totem pole, but worked hard for me. And then eventually made it happen. Actually went to a Minnesota Twins camp in the Metrodome. That didn't work out very well, and then went back down to Iowa and was actually going to be a player coach. Well, not player, but just a coach, and finish my degree there. And finally decided, I was away from my wife. It was our first year anniversary, and I was like, I'm going back to Utah. So I got in the car and drove 15 hours back to Utah. And when I got there, there was a big poster on the garage door to say, "Welcome home, Pirate." And Hank Krause was my scout, and he'd been trying to call me all day, but back then only a certain people had cell phones, so I wasn't stopping. I figured 15 hours, my baseball career was over, and I was going to start school and whatever. And then I got home, it all changed, and so I asked him if I could. It was actually this was Saturday night. Sunday was Cammie and I's first year anniversary. And I said, well, could I spend my anniversary with my wife tomorrow and then fly out Monday? And they said, no, they want you to play in the game Sunday night. So I ended up.
Welcome to professional baseball.
Yeah, exactly. So the funny thing is, I get to the game. I was like, yeah, that's great. So they got plane ticket at the Salt Lake International Airport, flew to Buffalo. They picked me up in Buffalo, drove me across the border into Welland, Ontario, Canada, and got there Sunday night about the 7th inning of the game. So I don't think they really wanted me to play in that game. So anyway, that was quite an experience. And I'm sitting in the stands, and one of our hitters strikes out, Ramon Espinosa, and he throws his bat off the backstop, yelling at the umpire because they called third strike. And I'm sitting there going, what am I getting myself into right here? So anyway, it was good. It was a good experience, and played in well in that year, and then went on to the instructional league and It was good.
Yeah,
So.
that was a very quick run through of your amateur status, and it's interesting because for those I'm bringing in all types of different athletes, players, coaches, and everybody, right, from different backgrounds, and not everybody actually gets to the big leagues that I'm speaking with. Some guys are former major leaguers, former coaches. A majority are minor leaguers. So you fit into this category of, I would call it a journeyman, who played, I think, for 12 years in the minor leagues. And there is a huge, you could say, group of players that didn't make the big leagues, but could have at any point, at any time, spent a lot of time in AAA. In the scouting rule, now we call them organizational players or up and down players. So if we were to scout you and we put that label on you now, that's kind of where you would fit. And there's many guys that made it, and then so many that didn't. What was if we kind of backtrack back to like junior college, were there any scouts when you were going to high school looking at you or any of the players around you, or was it completely barren and not till you got to the college side of things?
Well, growing up in Utah, I think, was just tough as it was back then. And I remember him telling me the pitching wasn't that great in Utah high schools. My senior year, even though I had a great senior year, maybe that's because the pitching wasn't so good, but they ended up drafting DeLynn Corey, who was from Cedar City. I never faced him, but so that was kind of like there wasn't really a whole lot there. So and I think there was a guy from the scouting bureau was talking. That was about the only person. But then when I got to Dixie, a few more. Manny Gura, I know that you know him. A great man. He actually told me I should try to be a pitcher. Okay. So yeah, so that was interesting.
He got that one wrong then.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I should have been. Maybe I would have ended up in the big leagues on the mound. But
so for the people listening, what position were you?
So I actually played third base in high school, and went to Dixie to play third. And then my coach said to me one day, "Hey, any chance you want to play center field?" And I was like, so thankful for that. I was like, he was nervous. Coach Jolly was nervous to ask me if I wanted to go play in the outfield, but it was a relief for me to move out there and just be able to run and, catch ball, fly balls and not have to worry about bunt defense or any of that, and just hit.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I agree with that sentiment there for sure.
Yes. Played three out of my 4 years in college in center. The 1 year at Texas, I was in right field. But not a whole lot going on. And then, our team went to the Junior College World Series my first year, my freshman year. And still really not a whole lot, not even really a whole lot coming out of Dixie College, a few small schools. So I ended up having to recruit myself out back then. My dad was a pretty smart guy, to be honest with you, when it comes to those things. And he was on me 24/7 about sending out some, it wasn't video, but it was just a portfolio of some news clippings and a picture of me. And just kind of, I would call these colleges and say, hey, I would like to come there. And I zeroed down to about 10. And the University of Arizona wanted me to come down and see the school. And the University of Texas actually sent Tommy Harmon, their first base coach, out to watch me play in an old men's summer league, and had a good game. And Gustafson asked me if I wanted to be a Longhorn, and I was excited about that. So we jumped on that. And there was no money involved. They offered me books in the fall, but Todd Van Poppel, who was the #1 draft pick by the A's, hadn't signed yet, and he was going to go there. And so that actually they didn't give me Todd Van Poppel's scholarship, but they gave me, so they ended up giving me a pretty decent scholarship to play there. He ended up signing with the A's. So this all happened like within a few weeks, late July, early August. So, and then,
so you get to that big D1 school. You spent some time with some junior college. What's that like going from junior college to this is a huge school, Texas. What's that like?
Well, it was great. I mean, the opportunity to play at the University of Texas, but then again, it was just, I felt like I was kind of a small fish in a big pond. There was a lot of good players there, and ended up sitting behind our right fielder who was a junior with me, great guy, Dean Haskins, and I just thought, man, next year if this is going to be the same way, I want to play my senior year. So ended up Briarcliff University, played for Dan McDermott out there, and was great. Played center field, hit fourth NAIA, and was up for National Player of the Year in the NAIA. And Pirates kept talking about drafting me. Oh, you'll be drafted and this and that, and then that never happened, and kind of made me a little bitter.
Yeah.
At the time, but anyway, Hank kept working for me and ended up going well for me. So being able to play pro ball.
Yeah, it's tough. It's, being a scout and obviously covering a certain area, you have all these colleges to go through and look at. And like you use the term, like you were a small fish in a big pond at Texas. That's probably how a lot of people feel when they first get there. And that's kind of how scouting works a little bit too. Like from my perspective, kind of now outside looking in as a scout, it's like, we're going to go where those big fish are. Right. So now and I kind of want to open that up into talking about when you're a college player and the D1 doesn't work out, or you're not playing, you want to transfer, it's just not the right fit for you. You go to NAIA, now you're playing, right? And you could probably play at Texas, but you just didn't get that opportunity. And I know that's true because of the great career in the minor leagues that you had. But the NAIA schools, that's harder to go to and get scouted out. Correct? Is that fair to say? Like, was there any ever scouts at those games?
Well, I think I was coming from the University of Texas, so that was they came to watch me play.
So they knew who you were. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I was just coming from Dixie College, I think I would have had to do a lot to get them to even come look at me, or I don't know if they would have even showed up. But
right.
There was another kid at Bellevue College that transferred from Oklahoma State, so he brought some people also, into that area right there in Omaha, Sioux City. So that helped. But obviously going from D1, the University of Texas, that was there. And kind of like you said, there was, when I look back at my career, don't think that I haven't looked to see where all those guys that were drafted out of the University of Texas ended up, and some of them had great careers. Shane Halter with the Kansas City Royals. He was actually one of my roommates. Yeah. Great guy, so, but as far as there's probably 10 or 12 kids drafted there. And I would say that as far as we can look at my career, it was further than that. So here I am lost at a D1 school, knowing that I can play, and then just obviously getting the opportunity, having a good year at Briarcliff, being up for National Player of the Year. I mean, things worked out, obviously. But I really honestly think the scouts came because this is a kid that was at Texas, so why is he here?
Right.
So
yeah, and it's probably nice if they care enough and they're willing to talk to you. Okay, why didn't it work out at Texas? Why are you here now at this school? And you're at least able to tell your story about, okay, this is why. Well, I'm not going to spend my senior year because so-and-so's in front of me. I want to enjoy my last year. I know I can play there. There's just not a spot for me here, so I'm going to go play at Briarcliff.
Yeah, exactly. My dad wasn't real happy with that choice, but I think in the long run, I think it was a good thing. I mean, it was great. McDermott was a great coach, still is a great coach, and I loved playing for him. And he worked hard for me. He knew that I wanted to play at the next level, and he worked hard, even being at a small school, to get me that recognition. And actually, I had left after the draft and came back to Utah because I was so mad. I know we went fast through my career, but I actually came back with my wife to Utah. And then when I was there, Coach McDermott called me and said, Reed, you got to come back out. There's about 15 teams represented at this camp. You need to come do it. So I went back out there, and the White Sox had a good camp, hit a home run in the game we played, and the White Sox were like, by Monday we'll have you a place. We need a third. And I moved back to third base because I was like, they've seen me play the outfield. Let me show them something different. So I came back to third. The White Sox had said, hey, we need a third baseman. We'll have you something by Monday. So, I'm on the phone calling everybody, White Sox going to offer. And he calls me on Monday and said that they had signed someone that he didn't know about the day before to play third base to fill that hole. So basically, sorry, if I could do something for you down the road, let me know. So I had left my wife back in Utah, drove back out to Iowa for this camp, and then there was the camp up in the Metrodome, and I was like, man, who doesn't want to play in a big league field? So I went up, drove 5 hours up there to this camp, and it was a 2-day camp. You come back the second day. I come back the second day, have 2 at-bats, I think, quick. It was an 18-inning game, and I sat there for 14, 15 innings. And I finally said to the guy that was running, I said, hey, am I going to get an at-bat or should I just go home? And he gave me another at-bat, and all I could think was I wanted to hit one over that baggie in right field.
Yeah.
And I swung so hard 3 times, missed everything, and packed my bag, drove back to Sioux City, and told my coach, hey, I'm going home, spending my anniversary with my wife. So
yeah,
went home, and the Pirates signed me on the way. So
that's interesting. So you're thinking in a way like my career's over, right? At this point, you're driving back home across the country, and probably upset, right? You're probably like, is this it? Like this now? I got to go get a job, right?
Right. That's exactly. I was like, I'm going to go to Weber State University and get my degree. Who wants to do that? I don't want to do that. I want to play.
Yeah, I'm a baseball player.
Yeah, that was a tough 15-hour drive home by myself, and I didn't stop, or I didn't call my wife and say, hey, I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska now. I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I just kept driving, and when I got home, she's like, how come you haven't called? And I was like, I had a lot of thinking to do. There's no doubt. So anyway, but she had a huge poster on the garage door, said, welcome home, Pirate. Went in and called Hank. And Hank did a great job. I mean, he got it done.
So did you, this long drive home, you didn't stop. Did you just use like the Super Big Gulp cup to pee in? Did you?
I stopped at a gas station, but I didn't have 25 cents or a collect call to make it on a payphone. So I just I put the gas in the car and kept going. Plus, I had no money, so I don't know what I was thinking.
Right. That's interesting. So, yeah, so then you sign, you start your professional career. You start to see right away, you can't spend your anniversary now with your wife. You got to get out to pro ball immediately. And your wife's probably already thinking like, okay, so this is, I just got to follow you, right? I just got to go do whatever you do. So tell us about the minor leagues. How does that all start out for you? And because you started to kind of play, when I played with you, you were like a corner player. You caught a little bit, played third, played first, some left, some right. Tell us about kind of your minor league career.
Well, I did a lot to try to stay in the lineup, so I tried to play every position there was. But when the Pirates signed me, they actually signed me as a third baseman. So even though I'd played outfield, so anyway, I go, and so on that Monday after I'd signed, I started at third base in my first professional game, and I was scared to death. I was like, what am I doing on the infield pro baseball? Like, I could handle it maybe in high school, but didn't get one ball hit to me, 0 balls hit to me. I was the happiest guy around. And then Rocky Bridges, our minor league infield coordinator, he came into Welland, and they actually put me on the disabled list for about a week in Welland, and just worked me over ground balls, and he stayed there the whole time, and got to know him pretty well. And just taught me how to play the infield, really. So
that's what we call the phantom DL, right?
Yeah.
Kind of whether you make up an injury or something like that. So yeah, so you're starting to look. That's what I wanted to share. Is one part of that is that you played outfield. You're an outfielder, and now you're going into pro ball. And you had the mindset of, look, I just want to play. So whatever position it is, I'm trying to get to the big leagues. If I have to play third, I got to play third.
Yeah, so played third there, and they knew that I had played the outfield, and I think I played a couple games at first, but I didn't play the outfield at all. Went to instructional league that year, playing third and only third. And then that next summer, you know, I had a great manager. Trent Jewett was someone that, you know, for some reason he really liked me, you know. And I mean, he got on me a lot of times, but I mean, I was kind of his guy that he was going to drag around with him, whether it made sense or not. So out of spring training, I mean, everybody's dying. They don't want to go to, you know, extended spring training. And I'm sitting there, you know, hoping that some way I can go to Augusta with him. And I end up in Augusta, and Jason Kendall was our catcher. And one of our catchers was sick, and Trent had asked me if I would help in the bullpen because I wasn't playing that day, if I would catch a bullpen. So I went down there, and I was scared to death. You know, guys throwing 95 have no idea where it's going in A-ball. And I'm down there trying to catch it. And Trent walks down and says, hey, I like your hands. You ever caught before? And I said, no. And he said, you want to learn how? And I said, no. And he said, hey, quickest way to the big leagues is a left-handed hitting catcher. And I said, all right, let's do it. So I started catching, and just so happened the last month of the season, Jason had injured his shoulder, and they didn't want him to catch or anything. They just wanted him to hit. So he DH'd, and I ended up catching the last month in Augusta, not having a clue of what I was doing. One of the funny stories I tell there was I was pitching, and Richie Townsend was pitching. Sorry, I was catching. And he wanted to throw a slider, and for some reason I couldn't put 3 down. And he finally called me out to the mound, and he yelled at me. He's like, "Don't you think we want to throw a slider here?" And I was like, "Richie, I was trying to put that down." He taps me on the back. He's like, "You're okay, all right, you're okay." And I go back and catch, and it was just kind of stuff like that I didn't realize, you know, what went on catching. I had an umpire yell at me once at the very first day, "You got to back up first base." You know, he's running down the line. He's like, "You got to come with me." And I met a guy halfway down the line between home and third I got the ball early, and I didn't want him to run me over, so I just took off and went about 4 steps and ran him over. And that kind of caused some problems, but anyway,
that's great.
yeah, I learned a lot. But you know, it's been a blessing, man, because I tell you what, when I'm coaching here at the high school, that whole catching thing is, I'm managing these kids, really. You know, I mean, as far as coaching goes, I don't coach a lot. Like, I know the game, I know what they need to do when they're swinging the bat and that stuff, but I'm telling you what, as far as catching goes, I just really feel like I manage players. Like, you know, they're different mental part of the game, and just really try to bring that catching, because I dealt with so many different pitchers on the mound, guys that you could yell at, guys that you'd have to pat on the rear end. Yeah. It's the same thing here at the high school level. You know, I got different kids from different backgrounds, not to get off track, but that catching, really, I mean, I love that Trent Jewett had me catch, because I knew I wanted to coach. That was always something I really wanted to do. Right. But catching that year in Augusta really, and, you know, then I go to instructional league the next, you know, that season, I'm a catcher, and Joe Lynette working with me, and really anybody. It's funny, I know you've had Coach Banny on here. I wrote down so many things that guy had talked to me about. You know, I actually could probably pull up some paper right here where I have some notes from Jeff Bannister on there, you know, telling me things, you know. So I was like, I try to get it all in. I was like, I really got to learn this. And I think it kept me around a long time, obviously, being able to catch. Because in my mind, I was a great outfielder, but they weren't ready to play me there. So.
No, I agree. I think you have the mindset of what most people, I think, feel about catching is like, I want nothing to do with it, right? And when Trent gave you that perspective of like, hey, man, like, he's probably looking at you like, number one, you have a frame, this strong, sturdy frame. You have the frame of a catcher, so he probably already knows that. and he's seeing you. Oh, he can actually do it. So he's saying, hey, left-handed hitter, catcher, you better learn this, or you might not be around long if you don't. That's, maybe you don't know that. So it's interesting how this all works out. And so you add this to your resume. I agree. If you can learn how to catch and have that back there somewhere, there's a lot of teams have 3 catchers, that it's going to allow you to play this game a lot longer. And then, like you said, if you're a coach, knowing how to catch, because now you're the only person that sees the field out front. Like all the position players, we're all looking at the hitter. So you see everything. And I think that's why a lot of catchers make such great managers, because they see everything. They know everything. They're dealing with the pitchers and the meetings and everything that's going on. So that's pretty cool. So you now have, so let's kind of fast forward to what you and we meet. I get drafted in 95. I think you've already played a couple years of pro ball. So I latched onto you. You were an older guy, and I'm like, I got to hang out with Reed because he knows what he's doing. And we just became friends. Right? We just hit it off and just enjoyed each other's company, and gave me a lot of advice as a young player coming up. And then we finally get to play together in Nashville under Trent Jewett. Trent was our manager there.
Yeah.
We became roommates. We had lunch together every day. So it was pretty cool. Any stories that you remember from our days in Nashville?
Oh man, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about how, I watched you hit so many home runs in Nashville, but like I can't really remember those. But I can remember like being on the plane with you. I can remember seeing how we're going to get to the airport, like how we're going to get to the field. Like I remember all that stuff, and God, man, that's the stuff that I miss a lot. It's just like.
Well, so speaking of the airplane, I'm going to cut you off, because speaking of the airplane, we fly to Nashville, and you hated to fly.
I didn't
right?
fly.
You're like,
I still don't like it.
Yeah, I got to take my pills. I got to knock myself out to get through this flight. So we would like sit next to each other and play, and you're just like, you're like this. And I'm like, well,
I remember you trying to show me movies and all kinds of things that say, hey, get your mind off this stuff. I'm like, oh, goodness, we're going down. We're going down.
Like, come on, man, let's watch some Tommy Boy.
That was good. Oh, shoot, I love Nashville, man. I was there for, 3 years? Yeah. I mean, it was Trent was my manager. I had Marty Brown there was my manager. Just love Nashville. There's no doubt about it. It was a great place to play, great city. It was fun.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, when I look back at pro ball, I think like all my stories and memories are like A-ball, and everybody like stunk it up like one game or another. Like I remember fielding a ball at third and throwing it off the backstop. It was like, I mean, just things like that. But when I got to AAA, it seemed like everybody was pretty decent. Like so the funny stories like just kind of were we kind of out the door. We
kind of figured it out by then, right?
Yeah, I think for the most part everybody had. There's still some funny things that went on, but man, I think back at A-ball, some of the things that happened, it was like, there's just crazy stuff that you didn't really see when you got at the next at AAA. But yeah, Nashville was great. Loved my time there. There's no doubt. I think one of the funniest stories is you probably tell it better was though in 2001 when I felt like I should have got a call up at the end of the year. And I love hearing your side of this story because I just remember yelling whatever I wanted to yell about. I was always kind of like laid back, did what they want, catch my bullpens, happy to be on the team. I'm not going to ruffle feathers. I'm just going to do what I can to make this team better and the people around me better. And after 2001, I had kind of lost it, I think, a little bit in that season.
I'll tell that.
I actually had probably the best season of my career. So.
Yeah, yes. And we were pulling for. So how old were you at that season?
So I was 31.
Okay. So I'll tell it. So you're 31 years old. What year was that? So I can put in context.
I was old, 2001. 2001.
Okay. So I had made my major league debut in 99. Started as a starting center field in 2000. I think you were still in Nashville, and then you had actually kind of, I don't know if it was that year, but I know you went to like Memphis for a year. You went to Oklahoma City for a year. It's like you went to a AAA team or a different organization, but then you came back. It's like the Pirates were the team you could always come back to, right?
Yeah.
So
always had a job.
Yeah, so I'm up and down between the big leagues and AAA from '99 to 2001 or two, and I know you're, as a journeyman, you're 31 years old. You had your best year at AAA. You were raking. The second half, you were unbelievable. You're hitting oppo bombs like crazy, playing third really well. Just like it was all just sinking for you, right? And without knowing you could say the logistics of, you got to be on a 40-man roster to get called up, or they have to put you on it to take someone off. All these things, we're all of us in the clubhouse are like, dude, like if anybody deserves a shot, it's this 31-year-old journeyman minor leaguer who's been busting his butt for years, right? And like you said, you were quiet. You just did your job, right? And you did your job, and so September comes, the call-ups start to come. Trent Jewett was it Trent Jewett or Marty at that point?
Marty was the manager.
It was Marty. So Marty is calling in guys that are getting called up. Usually it's one by one, and I don't know. There's like 5 or 6 guys that have already gone into his office and come out and like, hey, I'm going to the big leagues, and so you start to get real loud. You start to. Oh, okay. So and-so gets called up. What do you got to do to get called up around here? So you kind of went through that. I don't give an F what I say right now. I'm just going to I think you took a broomstick or something and started banging it like on the ceiling. So you just kind of stated your case that was like, screw this. Like, I deserve to go up. And everyone in that clubhouse agreed with that. It just sucked that it didn't work out, because you were certainly good enough to play in the big leagues. So that's kind of my point when we first started, that you were good enough to play in the big leagues, but that opportunity didn't come for whatever reason. And I know that's probably was hard for you to deal with, and it eats you up, and all that stuff.
People said, hey, did you play in the big leagues? A lot of people don't even know I played. I don't even know, I don't sit there and talk about it a lot. But, when people do, did you play in the big leagues? And it's like, no. And it's just been nice to have that, here's a team that I'd been with since day one. The problem is, Chad, is that at the same time, that's when Cam Bonifay they fired Cam Bonifay and brought in the other guy from Florida. So I think I think Cam and I I think we were good. I think that something would have happened. Del Swain told me one day that if Cam would have been the GM in September, you would have been there, So all these, just different things. So maybe it wasn't supposed to happen, but, I look back at what happened and I love it. It's only one thing. Did you play in the big leagues? No. I played in AAA. So, that's the thing that's I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me now, but it's one thing that it would be nice to say, yeah, I played in the big leagues. I struck out, on 3 pitches, I didn't even swing, whatever.
Yeah, and like I said, there's so many guys that fit into your shoes that just love the game. They played it forever. They're still in the game you're coaching, but you were good enough to play there. That's the best I can say. And I know you, with being there, seeing guys, you would have, I could see you would have been a left-handed pinch hitter, could play multiple positions, maybe would only play once a week, pinch hit, kind of like that 24th guy. And then you get sent down 2 weeks later because they brought up a young 23-year-old, So that's the game of baseball. And so many guys have gotten that opportunity. They're like, yeah, I got Banny. I think Banny had 2 or 3 at bats. Maybe, Ron Wright, our good friend Ron. He had some at bats and certainly it was good enough to be there for a really long time. So it's that's why that was the main reason. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to talk about Ron real quick.
Yeah.
And, you know, he hit the reverse cycle, triple play, double play, and struck out. And I always tell him, man, dude, I would have loved to have done that. Like, what,
That's
you
legit.
know, and so, I know that I know he's happy with what he did, you know, with his back and things, but it's just that, you know, I would have loved to have had that one AB, you know,
Right.
one AP.
Yeah, it's like just to put, you know, it's that the boyhood dream of I just want to put the uniform on, right, and be in that clubhouse. And I guess if you're there for a little bit, you kind of take that a little bit for granted because it just becomes a part of you. But man, when you get sent back down, when you go from the big leagues to AAA, you realize you're like, dude, this is it. Like this is where I want to be, and this is, you know. Then you go to AAA, and it's like, I got to go. Now you get back down to AAA. And it's now, I remember being older. My last year in AAA was 30, and now you're the veteran. So now I'm in your shoes, you know, at 30. Now I'm the old guy, you know. Now I'm playing with. I'm not on a 40 man. Now it's the young outfield prospects, who you feel like you're still better than. You know, you like
Right.
I'm better than all these guys, you know. But they're on a 40 man. They're younger. They have options. Maybe their body's not beat up, you know, when your body's beat up at 30,
Right.
31, stuff like that. So it's interesting how 20 to 30, how different your body feels, you know.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah,
No
especially
doubt.
if you're doing all that
30
catching.
to 40 is bad too.
Yeah. So you have, let's talk about your family. You have 4 boys. You know, you married Cammie. You started your pro career kind of right around when you got married. Walk us through what it was like to be a father with kids going through the minor leagues.
Shoot, boy, that was hard. I mean, that was tough. I mean, especially when Brogan was young and not in school, that was pretty easy. She came with us wherever, and we could move and go and do whatever. As soon as he started kindergarten, first grade, second grade, then it was kind of like, so, you know, I mean, I owe a lot to my wife. She was awesome through this whole thing. I mean, she traveled all over the place with these kids, and had 3 at the time. Brogan got to experience things that my other ones didn't get to experience, because he actually in Nashville would take batting practice with us and hang out in the outfield and then sit on the bench and hear all kinds of good words and things. But he actually got to live it a little bit, so that was good. The other 2 showed up, but they're pretty small. I remember my wife flying out of Altoona, Pennsylvania, and her flight got canceled in Cleveland, and she ended up in a hotel with the 3 little boys. And by the time they got to the hotel, they actually got her back on a bus. I mean, she spent maybe an hour or 2 in the hotel room. Then they got her back on a bus to the airport. So things like that was crazy. You know, being away from stuff. And I think that's where my career kind of like I started to realize, hey, you know, Pittsburgh wanted me to coach. 2001, I was actually a player coach with more emphasis on coaching, but I ended up having that year that I had, which is maybe something we should talk about also.
Yeah, I think we'll get into that. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to. And then, you know, so from that time, it was difficult to have that family. And, you know, Brogan's calling me on the phone saying, hey, Dad, I hit a double today. And I was just like, man, you know, my dad was there for me all the time. Like, he coached me, he mentored me, took me, you know, he taught me things that I needed to learn. And there's my son. And I just felt like, where am I at in this? Probably not going to, if I coach, it's going to be the same things, instructional league, spring training, you know, whatever it might be. And so I thought, you know what, I got to go home. Had my degree at that time now. I did online school, finished up my degree, thanks to my wife again for making me do that. So I had the opportunity to leave baseball and enjoy my family and actually be a coach. And I've coached them all through this. And I've got one more left. He's a 9th grader, and I'll coach him hopefully for the next 4 years here at Snow Canyon. But yeah, for sure, that was tough, and tough on my wife. And even the day that I retired, she said, now this is your choice, right? She's like, because I'm fine. She was home. We hadn't seen each other in a month. you know, and she's like, I'm fine, you know, you just keep doing what you're doing. And I said, no, I need to be home. So that's
which is a
2003.
hard decision, right? When you come to that day.
Yeah. It was like, the cool thing is no one ever told me I wasn't good enough anymore, you know. I was still playing. I was playing for Cleveland. I was in AAA. Marty Brown was our manager there, and I went in and said, hey, I'm packing it up and going home when we get off this road trip. So anyway,
what part of the season was
that? That was right at the end of July.
Okay.
So I'd actually flown home from Buffalo at the All-Star break. So I started with the Reds that year, and they sent me to Chattanooga. My family was with me in spring training, and then they sent me to Chattanooga, and I was like, hey, how long am I going to be here? And they're like, well, not very long. So they wanted me to send my family to Louisville because Brogan was in Little League in Louisville. We'd already signed him up for Little League in Louisville, and we had our apartment. And the last day of spring training, they're like, hey, we need you to go to Chattanooga because one of our catchers is hurt. And I was like, well, how long? And they said just a couple weeks, but you and I know this game too well. 2 weeks turned into a month and a half where you get released or whatever. And
yeah.
So we had decided that she would fly home with the kids from Florida at the end of spring training and then kind of wait to see what happened. So I ended up going to Chattanooga that year. And then I'm there till the middle of May. So a month and a half, and then they released me.
Okay.
So then Cleveland needs a utility player in AAA, which Marty Brown was a manager, so that was pretty easy, done deal, right? You know, and love Marty and played for him, and end up going to Cleveland, Buffalo. So I'm there. The All-Star break happens, and I'm like, hey, it's a chance for me to fly home and watch Brogan play because he was playing. So I watched him play, and then I had to fly back. So I fly back. When I get there, my name wasn't on the lineup card or the extras. And I was like, oh, okay. So don't tell me you released me because that would have made me mad because there were still more games of Brogan's to watch, right, at home.
Right.
And they said they put me on the Phantom Disabled list. They needed my roster spot. And at that time, I was like, okay, this is really – I have my degree. What's going to happen in these 7 days that I'm on this minor league disabled list? And one of the things they said, well, we're going to try to trade you. And I was like, 33-year-old that's never played in the big leagues, that's probably not going to happen. So then the other thing was you might come off the disabled list, which could happen. And the other thing was that they would release me. I felt like they were going to release me. So I started pursuing the teaching part of education and end up interviewing. And, you know, about a week later, I actually came off the disabled list, still had my job with Cleveland. But it was kind of the first time in my career that I had looked at the lineup card, and I wasn't really excited to be on the lineup card. I wasn't in the lineup, but I was an extra, and I was kind of like, nah, I kind of feel like I made my decision here. So I interviewed in Pawtucket and took the teaching job. So I think that kind of all just it was the end of July when I decided I was done. But, you know, Lou Collier was in Pawtucket, Kelly Dransfeld, a lot of guys that I had played with were playing for Pawtucket. And they were all like happy I was, you know, going to go be a teacher and a coach. And it was kind of a cool thing. They're like, wish we had something to do like that or something, you know, because you know the grind, you know, it's the grind. But there's nothing like it, man. I love every minute of what I did. So.
Yeah, so that's interesting how you said I got to the park that day and my name was not on the lineup, and you were okay with that. Meaning that you're like, once you realize that, you're like, it was like a switch for you almost, where like, I think I'm done.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'd always told people, oh, they're gonna have to rip my jersey off my back, you know, I mean, that's gonna. But I think there comes a time in your life where you're like, you know, what's most important here, you know, or my kids.
Yeah.
I could see that I could have probably played 2 more years. You know, I could still be coaching in the pro game right now if I would have followed that, you know. So
Or you get to
it
the
was
big
just
leagues
like,
as a coach, that you
yeah,
go that route, right?
could that could have happened. And you know what? I kind of hope in my mind that it still can happen. There was a coach in Pawtucket, Orv. I can't remember Orv's last name, but he was coaching for Pawtucket, coached with the A's, coached against me when I was in Calgary AAA. And he'd walked away from the pro game and then he got back in. I know it's tough to do, but I think about it a lot. I think when I'm done here coaching and my kids are gone and teaching, and maybe I take an A-ball job someplace,
Right.
and my wife loved it. I loved it. So I'd like to get back into it maybe one day. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but
We need,
priorities right now are
yeah.
my boys.
Yeah, because you got your youngest boy. We were just chatting the other day. You got a couple boys in college, one that's out of college, and then your youngest is gonna be an 8th grader going into
Ninth grade.
He's gonna just
Yeah.
start high school. So you at least got 4 more years of coaching in high school, right?
Yeah. Well, I see past that too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love to coach. I love being around the game. I mean, I think I'm going to stick around as long as I can. As long as the parents in my community will have me, I'm going to stay.
Right. So let's backtrack now to when you said you were a player coach, and that happened to be probably your best year. Why is that?
And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about was, you know what? There was another job. Like, if I suck today, I'm just going to go throw BP, hit some fungos, whatever. I'm going to coach. I still have my paycheck. I still have my insurance. I think when I'm coming up through and I don't have that security, I'm thinking, I got to go 4 for 4. I got to make every play. I've got to be the guy. I've got to provide for my family. And the only way to do that is to get to the big leagues.
Right.
And that year in 2001, they said player coach, and I was more emphasis on coaching. I quit doing everything. Like, I'm not telling people to quit doing everything, but like in the off season, I was like, I'm gonna spend every minute I can with my family because I'm going to leave them here and go to spring training.
Yeah.
So I spent more time with them than lifting weights or hitting or anything. And I walked into spring training and I hit fine, body felt fine. I was probably fat, but for the most part, I was like, the worst thing that can happen is I suck as a player and I coach and my paycheck's still there and I think that whole mindset just kind of made me a better player. Like I wasn't so caught up in like having to do everything, have to be the guy. I got to get in the lineup somehow, some way, somehow. I got to get myself in the lineup, and then I got to get 2 or 3 hits. I didn't feel like that, and I spent the first 3 weeks of that season doing zero. Like I didn't play. And I remember asking Marty, hey, can I throw some batting practice or something? And he's like, no, they don't want you to do that, whatever. So then Craig Wilson got called to the big, we're in Tacoma. Craig Wilson gets called to the big league. Humberto Cota gets hurt. Well, I'm catching. And I go, I'm like, I remember walking up and I think Steve Decker was catching. And he goes, Secrist, I don't even know what to throw you right now, man. The catcher's telling me this. Because I had like 4 doubles and a home run in this. I'm like 10 for 16 in this 4-game series. And it never stopped. Like it was that way the whole season. And I really think it was because I just felt like I could just play.
Yeah.
It was kind of like college. I could just play because you know what? My dad's going to send me some money today or something.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any worries or I didn't have to put food on the table. So I really try to tell my high school guys that. It's like, hey, you're not getting paid to do this. You know what? You need to have fun. Go out and have fun. Play the game the way you played it in Little League. Play the game you played it in travel ball. Yeah. That's kind of the way. And it comes back to the same thing as managing my guys, giving them that confidence that they need to succeed, knowing that I have their back, knowing that I believe in them. And it's not easy all the time. I'm coaching third and I got to have a guy pinch hit for somebody. oh yeah, you just blew my kid's confidence out of the world. No, I didn't, because I'm still talking to your son. I feel like he's still our guy the next game he plays, you know, whatever it might be. But I think that comes along with being a catcher and being able to manage people. And I think that's what you have to do as a coach. But I really, another thing I was going to talk about was this year, my son Cannon, he's at Academy of Arts pitching, and he used to be a position player, but he's realized if he's going to make it anywhere, it's going to be as a pitcher. So he wanted to only pitch. That's all he wanted to do. I'm just going to pitch. I'm just going to pitch. Well, his coach is my old college coach, McDermott, said, dude, I need you to play a position. So, like, I need you to pitch, but you also got to play a position. So this year he's hitting 320 this year. Yeah. And this kid hadn't hit in a year and a half or whatever, because he didn't hit at Southern Idaho. And I was talking to him, and he's like, Dad, I don't care. Like, yeah. I want to pitch. I want to be the guy on the mound. But when I get up there to hit, I just see the first pitch and I try to hit as hard as I can. And here's a kid that, he's hitting 320, hasn't hit in a year and a half, at Division II. So I kind of related it back to 2001 when I was a player coach. It's like, I don't want to tell kids not to care. That's like the worst thing to say. But at the same time, relax. Somehow you've got to get to that point in your career where you're like, I could just let myself play, do my thing, I think. And then when you can do that, then you can have a lot of success in this game doing that. So.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because I went through that same part. In fact, I think I was with you. I did it on two separate occasions, because I had been sent back down from the big leagues to AAA, and I kind of consoled in you. I ask you all these questions, but we would just talk, right? And I got to the point where, like, I think you even told me, it was like, maybe you shouldn't care as much, because I was always like, I'm supposed to be the man. Like, I gotta like the gotta and shouldas, right? I gotta get back up to the big leagues. I'm a first round pick. I got to go be the guy for the Pirates. I got to go do it.
Yeah.
So that adds extra stress. So there's two times I did that where I just backed off, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to go play. I don't care what the result is. And I had I actually played well with you as we were roommates, 2001, and earned another call up, without really overdoing it, working on my swing. It was more just focusing on the approach of hitting and the mindset, knowing that I can hit, and I'm going to stick with my approach, right? I already knew I had good mechanics. Like, I didn't care about the mechanics, right? And then I did that a second time when I became a free agent, went play for the Dodgers, was AAA here in Las Vegas, when I played in front of my family in my hometown. And Vegas is different. There was a batting cage. This was back in 2003. So the only batting cage was behind the outfield wall at Cashman, and it was garbage, right? So it's 110 degrees. So I just said, look, I didn't go out there one time. I didn't take any extra batting practice or flips out there. I said, I know I can hit. I'm going to stick with my approach. I'm just going to go do it in the game. And I hit like 400 there and got called up to the big leagues with the Dodgers. So what's hard to tell that, though, with kids is, like, we're not saying, like, don't go do the work, right? No. Do what you do and need to do to get ready. But also, this is the mindset of, I was 24 around that, 24, but had already had about 7 years of big minor league experience. When you're still in high school, you still need to go do the work. You're not a pro.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not a pro yet. So keep that work going. But no, because you kind of start to figure yourself out as you get older. Like, I don't need to go take 100 swings before this game. I'm playing every day.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I'm saying. You kind of figure it out. And I agree. I think everybody that's played the game for a while starts to realize what you need to do to get ready for that day. So it's interesting.
I I would always go early hitting. I would always take extra hacks after BP or whatever. But when I was going bad, I look back, I did so much more. I stayed after the game and would go down the cage and hit, and it was like, maybe I should have taken a different approach and just got away from what was going on, because like you said, I know my mechanics are good. I wouldn't be here if they weren't good. I just hit a ball 450 feet the other day, like I know my mechanics are, and I'm 28, 29, 30 years old. I know what I'm doing. Right. So why just go beat a dead horse in the batting cage? And so I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think that I just think that sometimes you have to step away and go the other way from this.
Yeah.
But
so I wanted to ask you about, being the minor league journeyman you are. Everybody sometimes around the age of 30, like 30 is like the magic number for whatever reason. If a guy hasn't made it to the big leagues around that age, there's teams that are outside of the country that start to really pay attention to guys that have some tools, whether it's some big raw power, can really throw hard, different scenarios and tools and things like that. You were put in that position to go play outside of the United States. Tell us about that.
Yes. So in 97, I had been in AAA 1 year. I was 27 years old, which was old for AAA, and ended up a team from Japan had come in and watched me play, and I ended up going over there for the half of the season. The hard thing with that was I really feel like if I would have had a full season there, I think that I would have just stayed there, played there, been there into my career there.
Yeah.
But I came in June, and they signed me in about the middle of May, and I didn't get to Japan till like June 20th or something. So I had like almost a whole month off before I got there. And but a great experience for me. Obviously, I got paid, which was huge. Yeah. Especially we just talked about me being a free agent, so there was no money really ever in baseball until that day. And so that was good for me, and loved it over there. Definitely a different culture and different things, and actually was playing pretty well. I had taken I was hitting 313. I took an 0 for 4 and made a play at third that they didn't like. Got the guy out of first, but they wanted me to get the guy out at second, and just kind of ended up pinch hitting from there on after that. So
like you're out.
I don't think they, and I don't know I don't think they just liked. I worked on as hard as I ever did. I wanted to, understand their culture and really get in the Japanese part of the game, but it never really seemed to work out. So after about a month in their big leagues over there, they sent me down to their minor leagues, and then they started changing me and doing things, which I was willing to change because I wanted to stay there, but it was still frustrating to me that they would take me over there. So it just never really worked out. I mean, it was a situation where I was thankful that I got paid because the money was guaranteed, but it was definitely different. I was happier than ever to come back to the United States and play, but I really think if I had a full season there that it would have been different. The communication was hard, and my interpreter, I don't know if he ever really said the things that I asked for, because I went in and talked to the manager and said, do I need to work harder? What do I need to do? He's probably like, this guy hates the place. He doesn't like anything about Japan, and which was totally wrong. But I don't know what he was saying to my manager. So after a while, they sent me the minors, and then they released me like 3 months later. So I tried to go to Korea at the end of my career because I was like, if I could make some more money before I finished, that would be great. But nobody cared. So
yeah. So didn't you say like just that half season that you were able to kind of help solidify playing for the next few years because the money you made compared to what you made here as a minor leaguer?
Yeah, no doubt about it. So that helped, and then came back. And you know what? I actually signed with the Cardinals in '98, and that was a great experience. That was one of the times where I really kind of felt like I belonged where I was at, because I grew up a St. Louis Cardinal fan as a little kid, and Willie McGee and all those guys. And I remember being at my locker, and my locker faced all the way down the clubhouse. La Russa's office was on the other end. And I remember sitting in my locker looking down, and on the left, Mark McGuire sitting there at his locker. On the right, Willie McGee, Vince Coleman, guys that, you know, I thought, you know, Willie McGee, Vince Coleman, that I thought were the greatest ever when I was a kid. And that was the first time I remember sitting in my locker looking down this clubhouse and thinking, somebody thinks I belong here, you know, like, this is the St. Louis Cardinals. These are the guys that, you know, I loved as a little kid. They were my heroes, you know. Willie McGee, especially when I got moved out to center field in college, I wanted to be like Willie McGee, you know. I wanted to be that guy.
Yeah. And
there I was in the same locker room, clubhouse with him. And so that was really a time in my life. I remember sitting in front of my locker and just kind of looking at it and thinking, this is a great thing right here. I didn't ever feel that I was that good, but somebody obviously thought I was that good to be in big league camp with those guys, you know. Obviously, 3 weeks later, I was sent down to AAA, but there was a moment there that I was like, you know, I never really experienced that with the Pirates because it was so cutthroat when we were in big league camp, because I was going to take somebody's position, you know. But when I was with the Cardinals, no one was worried about number 76, Reed Secrist, taking somebody's spot. So those spring trainings were fun. I really enjoyed St. Louis. I enjoyed Texas. Cincinnati was a good, you know, with Larkin and Griffey. Those were good spring trainings. And I think it was just because people were laid back and they knew that I was – and I could get any information I wanted from any of those guys. They were willing to give me information. With Pittsburgh, it was –
yeah, so we've talked about that, where it's amazing when you go to a different organization and you ask a question to a veteran player, or at least you feel comfortable asking a question that you're going to get probably a pretty good answer. When we were there, it was like, you don't say anything, you know, and that's something that Banny brought up. As I talked to Banny quite a few weeks ago, and you know, and obviously probably maybe from a managing or front office perspective, you might not know that or know the culture and the feel for that. But when you're a young player and you're trying to get advice from maybe established player, number one, you got to feel comfortable to go ask that person, right? And then in my experience, when I finally asked that question, and you kind of like, I'm not going to tell you an answer. Like, like why would I let you try to be better than me? That's how I felt. And it's, you know, I know we talked about that. That's how you felt as well.
I did.
Yeah.
And you know, the guys I played with in '96, you know, Del Swain, Joe Baver, Tom Bolton, Kenny Greer, those guys were really good. And they were there in '97 with us in big league camp. But, you know, and I got a lot of information from them, but I just always felt like I was there going to take somebody's spot. So no one was really going to, you know, be that nice to me. But man, when I was with these other teams, it was like, I walked into the St. Louis big league, and you know, Willie McGee, I talked to him right away, and he's like, hey, if you need anything, you come talk to me, Reed. You know, he knew I was a catcher though. Maybe if I was a center fielder, it'd been different.
You're a threat guy, right?
I was a threat to Willie McGee. Yeah. So anyway, they were cool. McGuire was cool with me. I mean, I really enjoyed those spring trainings, even though I knew that I was like not ever going to make that team. Yeah. You know, where I had a chance, I felt with Pittsburgh. So anyway, yeah, that was a good experience. It was also a learning experience too, though. There in Memphis that year, I felt like no one had any confidence in me after about July, and they ended up releasing me. And that was hard to play when I felt like my manager, my coaches didn't have the confidence in me as a player. And so that's one thing I've learned also as a coach is, like we talked about a little earlier, about confidence, just trying to get my players here at the high school to realize that I do think that they can come through in situations, and they do, you know, when they're in those tight situations, I believe that they're going to come through, you know, and I never felt like that before. I learned so much in my pro career, man, that's helped me coach at the high school level. I'm still learning here too. There's no doubt about that. But man, I wouldn't trade that for anything. I love Trent Jewett, Bannister, Marty Brown, those guys that coached me. I mean, was great, and even the guys that weren't so great that I didn't really care for, they taught me how not to be a coach, and so, I mean, I couldn't ask for more to have those guys mentor me at what I'm doing now. And hopefully in the future it will continue.
Yeah, now you've been coaching 17 years at Snow Canyon. I want to paint a picture for the people listening on how crazy maybe is not the word, but how cool it is to go watch a high school baseball game. So Snow Canyon is in St. George, Utah. It's in southern Utah. And what do you have, about 5 high schools there now? Is it 5?
Yeah, about 5.
Like 5 high schools. So pretty small knit community, but very competitive. And a lot of your games are at night because you all have lights, right? And so, and I from a scout's point of view, I've scouted some players at your school, at different schools in the area. Now, at Snow Canyon in particular, you go to the school and there's kind of a grassy burn there that you can put, if you show up right after school, there's like hundreds of chairs already put out, like people getting their spots to watch this baseball game. So here in Las Vegas, obviously it's beautiful in the spring. The only people that are watching the game are the parents of the kids, and maybe some coaches, some random scouts. So not a lot of people at all. These games, there's hundreds of people. Like it's like a community, a city thing. People show up, and you're playing, like every game's kind of a rivalry because there's only so many schools. So it is quite it's easily the best atmosphere in the Four Corners area that we scout to go watch a game, because the games are at night. People show up, and it's a dogfight every game.
Yeah, it's there's nothing like it, and I love it because it kind of brings back that minor league pro, with the people in the stands, and like you said, 7 o'clock at night, and people are off work and they come here, and I mean we can get 1,000 to 2,000 people jammed on this grassy hill over here and in our stands, and the facilities are unbelievable. I love every minute of it, and the crosstown rivals are great. I get along with all the coaches, but people don't really know how to interact with me from other schools, because I'll do the travel ball thing, showcases, and I'll have some of those kids play for me, and they're not really sure because they don't like me, but they don't really know me, and so
you're intense
for me, and then they're like, "Oh, hey, he's all right." He's an all right guy, he's all right. But during these games, I'm intense, I'm competitive, I've worked hard. I know my players have worked hard and put in the work, and I expect things to go our way all the time, and sometimes they don't, and that upsets me. So anyway, but some of the fun things I bring so much of the pro game into this that people don't even understand, and maybe I shouldn't say anything, but crosstown rival here, the fans, they just light me up. They don't like me, they light me up. And there was a play once where a kid took a helmet off, and I knew it had nothing to do with the play, but I went out and talked to the umpire, and these people went absolutely crazy on me. Get off the field, Secrist, you're fat, whatever. They're just yelling everything. And I walk out to the umpire, and I said to him, I said, "Hey," I said, I just came out here to stand out here and talk with you a little bit while these people just go crazy. So they're absolutely going crazy. And the umpire looks at me and he's like, "I've never heard a coach say that ever." And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to stand out here and just talk with you a little bit." He's like, "Well, throw your hands up in the air and act like you're really getting into it." And they're going crazy. So I'm just messing with them, right? So this stuff like that is it's kind of a fun deal. But you're right. It's an atmosphere I've never, growing up in northern Utah, where your games are at 3 o'clock, and you hope to get your girlfriend out there. Maybe your dad left work early to see your game, but down here it's especially when both teams are and we got some great baseball here, but when both teams are fighting for a playoff spot or a region championship, it's just crazy how many people come to these things. And I think it prepares our kids well for the next level. They go, so maybe it doesn't, because sometimes they go to the next level and they got, we had 20 people in our stand, it's like,
they're disappointed.
Or they don't have a clubhouse or locker room like we have here, or indoor hitting facility, and things like that. So it's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, it could definitely, it could be a college situation and atmosphere with the way you got a clubhouse, you walk upstairs. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, completely spoiled, basically.
I am, but the guy before me built the clubhouse, and then I worked my tail off on that hitting facility. We've got 3 cages in there indoor. When it's 110 outside, you can go in there and hit, and so it's top notch. There's no doubt about it. People are like, hey, do you ever think about going to college level or somewhere else? And I'm like, no, I really don't. I feel like I've got it all here.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't want to leave.
When you spend as much time as you have trying to build up the facility and grow you've won state championships. You've been a runner-up, I think, a few times. So it's when you get into that atmosphere and you go compete and you're helping kids get to school, get to college, and go on and you have them for 4 years, helping them become men because they're with you almost every single day. And you have quite a staff. I know this year you have Brandon Lyon, former major leaguer that helps you out. His son is, I believe, he'll be a junior this upcoming year.
Yep. Yeah.
So good player there. You have constant D1 players that go on to play at different levels. You've had Wally Ritchie, former big leaguer.
Yeah.
So there's some guys there, and it's a great place to be. Any as we'll kind of wrap this up for you. You've been very generous with your time. Any, I guess, last words of advice, and what would you say? I ask this question a lot. Like, what would you say gives your mental edge on how you go about your daily life?
You know what? I think just being positive all the time. You've got to be positive. When things are not going your way, you got to find the positive in it. And that's what I try to do here. There's obviously a lot going on here, and kids trying to go to the next level and do things, but it's just, and you deal with a lot of different things, but I think it's just being positive, having that self-confidence that you're going to come through. And it might just be a little glitch, little speed bump in your life, but it's just that if you're positive about things, you can get over it. It's good.
Yeah.
So that's what I've tried to do here.
Yeah.
With my players, try to be as positive as I can, give them that confidence they need, and not only to succeed on the baseball field, but succeed in life. So I think it's huge.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. Well, this has been great. I love your story. The Journeyman story, I think, is one that needs to be told because it happens a lot more often than we think. And, and you handled your life and everything. It's been amazing. You have 4 amazing boys, an amazing wife. So you just had a lot of good things going for you. And 17 years coaching now, it's amazing. It's gone that fast.
I know. That's more than 12 that I play. I used to say, well, I played 12, and then I started out of my college years, so I'm like 16.
Yeah.
But now I'm past that, so I've been a coach longer than I've played.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny how that works out. That you think you're going to play forever, and then most of us, we're lucky, real lucky, if you play till you're 30 years old. At the professional level, and most guys are done by the time they're 22, 23, 24. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see. But man, I appreciate you. I appreciate coming on board. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we get some baseball going. Hopefully we can start back up in the fall.
Yeah, for
Do something,
sure.
So, but man, I appreciate you coming on board.
We definitely need it. We need it, man. This is awesome what you're doing. I've enjoyed watching the other guys, so keep it up.
Absolutely.
Good.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Reed Secrist. As you can tell, Reed's an amazing dude, has an amazing family. Spent a lot of time in the minor leagues, just was on the brink of reaching the big leagues. But I want to thank him for coming on board. He's done an amazing job coaching at Snow Canyon High School. So I want to wish him and his family nothing but the best. I want to make sure that you are aware of my live weekly Zoom calls that I'm doing. I've started a community of helping out young athletes. I wanted to make it as affordable as possible for you to jump on. So go to the mentaledge.training, mentaledge.training. You can sign up, be a subscriber, $13.99 a month. What I do is I'm teaching some content. I teach a lesson that's roughly 10 to 20 minutes, depending on what I'm teaching for that day. You come in, you listen to the content, then I start answering your questions. It's been great so far. Kids are getting their questions answered. It's affordable for you. So make sure you sign up and become a subscriber at mentaledge.training. I'll see you in the next episode.